Hey, what's up, people? This is episode 178 or 179 of the Option Podcast. I don't know. I don't really. Okay, it is what it is. That guy looks like Torin Jeffreys. We're going to find out in the minute the episode starts. Right now. It's so official, isn't it? What's up, Torin?
Just, another day in my life. Always exciting. Always lots to do.
Well, I think I want to talk about what you've been doing this morning because I am so ingratiated in politics right now and just like uh, um, I've become woke in a different way.
Yeah.
You know how some woke has gotten, I guess was like this term where it was original a term where like black people are just saying, "Hey, be wary when white people are being nice to you.
Yeah, right.
Look out for these little tell signs that show that to see if they're smiling in your face and ready to put a knife in your back." And then
Yeah. Yeah.
woke turned into cancel culture. They become sisters,
Right, yeah.
right? Where
Hijacked it again.
yeah, where you need to apologize. You need to go to sensitivity training courses. Only in the end to just be fired anyway. You just right
Yeah.
because it is the culture that forgives but does not forget.
Yeah, exactly.
So I become woke in a different way. I listen to something, and then someone else says something different, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. So you start doing some research, right? And then you go on Google and you're like, okay, the mainstream's right. And then the person who's a minority is like, no, it's a report here. So then you keyword that and the report pops up. And I'm like, why didn't that show up on Google the first time? Are you trying to scrub from the internet? But
I mean,
yeah,
probably.
yeah. Before we talk about the other, let's talk about volleyball. Were you training this morning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, out and about in 16th this morning.
Yeah. Was it Dolan?
Yeah, it was Gene. Always a good time. Love working with him.
I like him a lot.
So do I. He's been down in Brazil a lot lately. He's like gone every other month.
And that's good for him. Because, good, let's talk about volleyball. Good. Oh, thank God is good. All you had to do is let me hit this up, fall all the way off the cliff.
Yeah.
All right. So, Gene has always been a good numbers coach and has always figured out things mathematically in his head that people who think they're smart realize it's like, okay, I'm not that smart. Wow, he's smart. That guy's a genius, right?
Yeah, no, he's very
Did he just say
intelligent.
every fifth shot was line over mathematically? What? Honestly, because of him, I was coaching Case Beer and no, against Case Beer and Allen. I was coaching Jeff and whatever. And I was talking to Gene a lot, man. And mathematically, we were tough, man. We were tough that first game. 12-9 tech timeout, lost 24-22. I mean, against a team that no one picked us to win anyway, right?
Mm.
So, did Gene talk about his trip to Brazil or talk about anything he came back from? Or
Not so much. Brazil is more, he's doing some coaching down there, and
Mhm.
I think he's getting ready to, we were talking about doing potentially like a training camp in like February down there. And then just kind of, he's retired.
Yeah.
Coaching is just kind of, something he does for fun.
Yeah.
So he's just been enjoying, the good life of southern Brazil.
You got a
So,
passport?
I do.
Yeah,
No, I've
you
heard
just
nothing but
ready
good
to
things.
go.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on a plane. I might not come back.
And lipstick stamps on your passport.
Yeah, something, man. Something. No, I've heard nothing but great things about going down there. I know a couple people who have done the training trips and stuff. Not necessarily with Gene, but with,
Like Ben Vaught.
Ben Vaught.
I know he took a trip up.
Kind of, I feel like everybody is due to do one at some point.
Yeah.
Go train in Brazil for like a month.
I've been one of the biggest critics of the American men's scene, and I know this comes in cycles. I acknowledge that you don't just start good and stay good, right? The 90s was a long freaking time ago, right? Where we could just gold medal anyone, I've been critical of the coaching because when I see men's players on the tour, you see a professional men's game, an open level type of men's game, and you see hot dog moves Like someone's digging like this. Maybe they did what they had to do because they got caught. But why?
Right.
But why are you getting caught like that? Right? Someone's running to the net. The set's at the net, and instead of scoring up, they're running to the net and they're doing this to bring it back and create. But why do you have to make that move? What's up with your first step? Was that pass shot like that? For me, 53, yeah, I got to do that. If you're a professional, you shouldn't. So, I've been very, very critical of, because this is shaping a question, because you get to do the other thing. You get to talk about the positive part,
Okay.
about what you see, that's changing, that's making it different. So we're gonna explore that in a minute. In fact, let's explore that now. Enough haterade. What's one or two things you saw like on the men's scene that gives us hope for like Paris and stuff like that?
Well, I think that there's a lot of younger talent, maybe even necessarily like in the up and coming years. I mean, you obviously goes without saying, like Miles Martain,
Yeah.
like that kid's something else. And then other people around his age range and kind of in like, their early 20s that are coming up through this high performance stuff that, they're working out with like Leandro and all that. I do think that there is a good solid future on the men's side. I do also feel though that because of how college beach works right now with women, and that like you
That's why
don't
we're not even talking about him, right?
yeah, exactly. It's like you don't have the farm, right? Like you don't have, 8,000 girls who played graduating every year that you can pull from that, like, that deep vat to really, make a top heavy like side on the men's. It's a little bit more, it's not as selective, but you have a much smaller, you know, pool to grab people from.
Right.
So I just think it's just going to be like a time thing, right? Like I think just in the U.S. we need another, I'd say probably 5 years of
Maybe,
like
yeah.
getting some of these, younger, hungry individuals, the training, the reps, the coaching that they need to really, step onto the world stage and do some damage.
Yeah.
Because again, it doesn't happen overnight. It's something that we've talked about before, off camera, in terms of, why are people getting together, forming a team, playing one and maybe two tournaments together, and we didn't do super great. Like, on to the next one. Like, dude, if my life experience has taught me anything from what I've come up through with different sports, or like basketball and stuff, is that if you really want to build something special, like you just got to stick with it, right? Like just because you have a couple bad tournaments or, like something doesn't go the way you expected to or wanted to, is that really the reason that, you should step away from it and look for something else? Because like, how many teams have we seen, from our men's side that you're like, oh, dude, like on paper that should be a really good team, or like, oh, that's a really good blend of like personalities and like styles, like I think they'll be a good team. They'll play like two AVP opens, maybe have two really terrible finishes, and then they'll walk away. Like, okay, you're supposed to lose, like that's part of it, right? Like, just looking at, outside of just volleyball alone, like nothing you do in life, you're just successful at the first time, mostly. Not even the second time, most of the time, not even the third time, right? Like it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort to get to where you want to be. I do think that ego could potentially be something that plays into it, right? Like I don't know a lot of the top players that well, I know them in passing, so I'm not going to speak to personality, do they have a big head? Like I don't know any of those things, right? So I just think that it's just something people could maybe be more cognizantly aware of, is that, hey, like maybe we should stick together for half a season and see how it really goes, right? Maybe we don't just only play AVP Opens. I think that's the other one too, that where people get in a lot of trouble, is you see our top players aren't playing a lot of tournaments in the States. And granted, like we don't have somewhat a lot of other countries have, right? Like professional leagues for beach and like all that, right? But California specifically, there's an open almost every weekend through the CBPA, right? And yeah, they're like, oh, like we can go win those things, no problem. Sure, you can. But if you're a new team, those are a great place to go and literally just learn how to play together, learn how to win together. It's like there's so many, variables you have to navigate when you're playing with another human. Is that's where you can learn how to deal that. And then you then get that sense of, okay, can I go on a trip with this person and spend, just a week in the same hotel room? We're probably having dinner and stuff together. Like, we're going to see a lot of each other, right? Those CBVAs or those day-long tournaments, to me, are a great teaching tool to learn how to deal with one another, right? Because you could play a, team you think you should beat the snot out of, right? And lose, and then have to play again against a much better team while you're still in your feelings and your thoughts and all that. It's like, hey, you got to bounce right back. Like, we play back to back, and granted, you don't play matches, all that, but it teaches you how to start a game. Like, people just look at it and they just kind of like, I feel like they almost scoff at like these tournaments, and that'd be like me being like, oh, like, I'm too good to go play an A. It's like, no, I need to go play an A right now. Like, I need to learn how to, win, how to deal with people, like, all of those things. Do I believe that I have a higher skill set than it? Yeah, of course. Like, I truly believe that. But, on paper, doesn't matter. Haven't won one. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So I'm not going to give myself any accolades that I haven't earned. And I also want to, like, for me personally, I try to keep a very, like, clear sense of, like, okay, this is where I think that I'm at. This is where I'm actually maybe at on paper. How do I take myself on paper to where I want to be?
Right.
And that's, to me, that's what the CBA is for.
What's
right? That's where you learn how to win this, win sets, win matches.
I think having you on the podcast is really cool because there's so many things that you are allowed to speak on that level because you are, in fact, as Travis Muir would put it, one of the gladiators in the arena who are experiencing victory and defeat, right? I've been at this game as a coach and a commentator for a long time, former indoor player, never really a beach guy, right? And I do see things, reality for what they are. And when someone says, oh, it's easy for you to say that sitting in your chair in your desk, my answer is that, yeah, it's very easy. In fact, I think it's really easy for me to say something like that here, sitting here. So it's really cool to have that from two different perspectives. One, a guy who knows how to win, who had some success or whatever, to someone like you who's in there in the grind. Sometimes you have a bad day with Max State. Sometimes you have a good day with John Moran, right? I remember he took a fifth earlier on. Open. So glad to have you, because you are just one of many players on so many levels who are saying the weird thing is you're saying the same thing.
Yeah,
you're saying the same thing. This is truth. This is truth to power. I guess my answer to that, or my retort, is you have to, not have to, but we have to consider the personality. The player personality, right? Because only speaking for myself, if I play double B or A, I would play like an A player, right? If I'm in an open tournament, I play like an open dude. So there are some people like my wife who plays one level all the way, right? If you want to play A, you're gonna lose 21. You're gonna lose 21-11, right? You want to play A against me, right?
Yep.
Because she plays that one level, right? And it's weird that even at the high levels, playing down is a real thing, and that's why I was such a Debbie Downer about, like, when are you going to conquer the muscles between your ears?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of it, right? That's what most people fall into, is, again, kind of like I was saying, like, this is how you see yourself, right? Like, I see myself as, like, if I had to use like a scale, right? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, I think I'm at like a 6 out of 10 right now in terms of like volleyball capability.
Oh, you're talking about
right?
playing. I was talking
Yeah,
about
playing,
looks.
playing,
I give
right,
you
right.
a solid 9 point
No,
something.
like playing. This
Okay.
is just example, right? Like, I think I'm at like a 6 out of 10, right?
This man gets tips, people. Sorry, go ahead.
I think I'm at 6 out of 10. And then, okay, like, I'm playing a B tournament, right? All right. I think all the teams that we're going to play against are probably at like a 2, maybe a 3 out of 10, right? We might run into a 4, maybe a 5 if like we play someone's best game. This is where you get your head
Right.
at, right?
And then when the semis comes,
Well, but here's the thing.
sorry, go ahead.
Why are you even thinking about any of that? Like, why does that thought ever enter your mind as like, oh, I know that I'm better than these people? Like, you got to play the game, right?
What?
Like, if you allow that door in your head to open of like, oh, I can like kind of take it easy, right? Like, I know I'm better than them. Like, I can let up a little bit. You know, we can still just win.
Right.
That's when you open that door for them who are just like, hey, these guys are pretty good. Like, we're just gonna go play hard and whatever happens, happens, right? It's all perspective, right? You have this perspective of you just deserve to win because in your mind you think you're better, but you still have to play the game.
Right.
And I think that's the trap that like so many people fall into is, that ego starts talking to you, right? Like, like it's gonna be easy, It's like, don't listen to that. Don't listen to that. Like, don't think. Like, do not allow any thoughts to come into your head, like especially those, because those will just worm your way in, and then you get frustrated, right? Like they start, it's neck and neck. It's 10-11 side switch, or side, like technical, it's 18-17 side switch. And you're like, dude, what is going on? Like, we're so much better than these people. Like, why are they right in this game? And it's like you're just riding that emotional wave that you created before you even started the match, because you just assumed. You predetermined that you were going to win because in your mind you're better than. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a trap.
So
Everybody falls into it.
It is a trap, and it's weird that the men have to deal with both of those. Three. We can go 3 problems. I can name 2 off the top of my head. Like the women, the good thing about the women is that's the only thing they need to focus on, because the physical from the neck down, like you said, when it became an NCAA sport and the club sizes have tripled back then, we called it. We knew there'd be this boom period, probably once every 4 years, almost like UFC champs or something, where there would be this, not 1, not 2, but like 10 pairs of girls that are just going to set the world on fire every 4 years. Like Hughes and Chang, Glenn Clays. Back then, they were the leaders or the pioneers of that.
Yeah, right out of college.
Yeah, but you consider Betsy played at that time, right? You consider Kelly Larson or Kalinsky played at that time. So they were part of a smaller boom period. And then this group from 2019 that were in their senior year in high school to their senior year in college. This 4-year group of girls, Chrissy Jones and Muno. 43rd seed in the qualifier semifinals. Kraft and Maple, quarterfinals. They were 16 and 18 years old. The Noors twins qualified, as high school seniors. There was just this conglomerate of just sick fucking women. In fact, while we're talking, let's take a look at the rankings for the women right now.
Yeah, but what's kind of scary about that to me?
All right, check this out as we continue to dialogue. That's Duda and Patricia, but look how many American teams are in the world's top 15. Now they're gonna my team, the team I'm a fan of, TKN. They're gonna try to get as many points as they can because they don't want some American team winning a bid, right? No, because you only allow 2 teams. So all right, so let's go down the line. Sorry, there goes Tina Gradina. God bless her.
Awesome.
Her godfather's my mentor, so there's a connection there. Oldest Lucy's, God bless you. Big shout out. Cannon and Sponsor. Davenport's been doing some good things with them. Stockman and Kraft. Two girls that can hook up with anybody and do well, and here they are with each other. So that's the top 15. You can go Flint and Scholes, who's got some catching up to do, but Betsy's one of them quiet chicks that could sneak up and take some. Like, that's the kind of team that'll win a bid, right?
Yeah.
An automatic bid. And then, watch this. I'm scrolling back to the top. And then one of these 2 teams got a problem for the other spot.
Well, it's kind of crazy. I was just thinking, I was like, so we almost have 5 teams in the top 20 for the women's side, right? I don't even think we've really had that like huge like college boom yet. Like, I think there's a much bigger wave in like the next couple years that you're gonna see of like, because a lot of girls have now seen like Cloth and Nuss have done, like coming out of college, what Kelly and Sarah have done coming out of college.
Jesus.
Again, all you have to do is put the belief in people's minds that it's possible.
Yeah.
And that's, like the guy who's like, oh, you can't run a mile in under 4 minutes. You did run a mile in 4 minutes, and then everybody's running miles, sub 4 minute miles.
I know, right?
I'm
gonna do a Facebook reset because I noticed the bit rate would chop. So if people watching us on Facebook, we're chopping this off and we're creating a new file. So for people watching live, just stay with me and check out the next live one. But you're right. Let's talk about one of those things. Let's talk about Nuss and Cloth, right? Let's talk about Kristen's belief in herself, being this undersized player, right? Let's talk about Torin Cloth, who at the time was a senior at Creighton indoor, made the Elite Eight for indoor, right? Which is saying a lot. I mean, you're in the Elite Eight, and Creighton's there, and no West Coast team was there except for maybe Stanford at the time. That a belief does come into play. Two different girls. One girl's short in the beach game. One girl's tall, figuring it out, goes to LSU. Go ahead, Torin.
Well, I mean, I've never had the opportunity to pick Kristen's brain, just to kind of see how she really approaches the game.
Else.
But she strikes me as the kind of person who, one, she's not really afraid of anything.
No.
That's it. She does not do things out of fear.
She ain't got time for that.
Yeah, exactly. She wouldn't have the results she had if she did, right? Two, I feel like she's a very humble person. Yeah. Just kind.
You just want to freaking hold her and squeeze her. She's so lovable. Her humility, right? Let's talk about looks, because I'm gonna have fun with people. She looks alright, okay? She's cute, but when you talk to her, she's hot. She's got points. Right? And then there's some girls who are hot and then they open their mouth and they just lose points. Remember me, you, Greg Faulkner? Yeah. We had this thing that we call points, and I can't believe we're talking about it on a podcast. But I guess
it just feels
I do what I want.
But your brain in a blender. You're I can't listen to you talk.
She's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think just a combination, just those two things alone, and she obviously has a work ethic because,
At that height, you have to, right?
Yeah, you got to have a skill set that not a lot of people are going to take the time to develop.
Talk about a girl who already knows she has to run 150 meters for the 100-meter dash.
Yep.
Said, this isn't fair. This is a reality. What do I do?
All right.
Just got to run faster.
Run the 150.
Just got to run faster,
yep.
The thing I like about her is the way she's handling success. I met Kristen through Sean Ledig, who's listening right now. Sean was watching us right now. And he's like, Jay, you're going to love these two girls, man. From New Orleans. They ain't no joke, They ain't no, you should have them on the podcast, And this was college them. This is before they finished their last season 36-0. This is before they won New Orleans and won Wapaka and then won Atlantic City and won their first gold series from the qualifier, no less. This is before they came to Australia with no points. Qualifier, main draw, won. This is before that. So 3 years later after that, she comes on this podcast. She's still Kristen. It is adorable. It is romantic to see someone like that loves and respects the sport with this level of humility and I can't imagine the crap that she has to go through. Not went through, still goes through. Every time they lose, all the critics, they should break up. Taryn should get another partner. That girl's too short. She probably has to find a way to drown that noise. And do you know, I'm going to let you talk, but lastly, do you know why I like her? I like her because she handled that better than me. Jason Olive told me I'm the type of guy that if I fought to get a mansion, he says, you're the kind of guy when you get the mansion, you pick up a brick and you throw it through your own window because you're so pissed. It took you so long to get there. Congratulations, Jason. Shut up. So she's younger than me, but she inspires me to accept realities. Make these choices, live with these choices, and if I'm successful, don't be such a hater. Don't be such a hater.
Yeah.
Is there something you'd like to say about that?
Well, it strikes me like a lot of very humble people, right? Mm-hmm. They are very accepting of their circumstances. Mm-hmm. They understand what's happening in their life, mm-hmm. what they need to do. and how to get there. Right.
No doubt.
Allegedly. Like, again, you never get there the way that you think you're going to. You just gotta.
It's so true.
I think there's a really cool like quote from Jim Carrey, actually. Was it Jim Carrey? I think it was Jim Carrey. But he basically was saying that in terms of like the things that you want in life, it's not your job to figure out how it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's your job to open the door in your mind and then work towards it, and it will make its way to you in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
One way or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how it's going to happen for you, but you just have to have that door open in your head, right? Just knowing that, okay, this is what I want. This is my plan, because the plan's going to get tossed out the window at some point. But just having some form of like guiding set of principles is like what you need to do to get where you want to go. And as long as you just keep working towards that, like, that's it. I feel like that's probably was her mentality, right? It's just like, this is where I see myself. This is where I want to be. These are the things that I need to do to make that happen. I'm just going to continue to do these things to the best of my ability. And then everything else is just a lesson along the way.
I like that.
Right? Like, that's it. That's, you know.
Cool. Let's take that. Big up, Kristen, because that's a great way to talk about her. And what I'm a fan. Me, I'm a fan. I'm an actual fan. Not a volleyball purist, not a freaking hater. I'm a fan of both of them, her and Torin.
Watching her play is kind of almost like watching Steph Curry. Like, every time she hits the ball, you're like, all right, like, what shot she's hitting next? Like, you're like kind of on the edge of your seat, like, ooh, like, what's she gonna do next? You know what I mean? Like,
when she gets a dig, especially on transition, when she gets a dig, you're at the edge of your seat.
You're like, oh, she's gonna do something cool right now. Like, yeah, that's how you always feel.
And when she does it, the crowd goes, oh.
She reminds me of
and
Bruno.
Claps. Oh, yeah.
She reminds me of Bruno.
Hell yeah.
That's
a great comparison.
Very similar game.
Olympic gold medalist, graciously listed at 6 feet tall.
Yeah, graciously.
Six.
Looks like a soccer dad.
Yeah. All right.
I've always said as he's the best volleyball I've ever seen, but he literally, like, if I didn't know who he was and I saw him at like the grocery store, I'd just be like, oh, hey, like, you know, soccer dad.
I just love the way, for a guy like me who, it's crazy because as a former player, I like to whoop it up with the crowd, and I like to, have fun with the other people crossing it. Nothing too disrespectful. I know someone, they know me as a pecking order, boom. But it's weird that I become a fan of the people who accept victory with the same level of humility as defeat, right? Like, my favorite three girls are Chrissy Jones. We were talking about her on the podcast last time because she played for Todd. She played indoor at Washington, but played one year at beach for beach volleyball for Todd. Pair one, which is a testament to how good she is, right? Indoor player, you're on my pair one. You're an Avenger. What? In fact, you're WCC champs. So it's her and TKN. Those are my three. And what do they all have in common? There's no hot dogging on skill set. There's no cutting corners on their training because it shows up in bigger games. Are you disciplined when it's a bigger game? Are you disciplined when the block is bigger? Are you disciplined when the serve to space is faster? Are you disciplined when someone's hitting a little bit harder? Do you readjust your matrix, or do you fall back to something that you're comfortable with and is proper technique? Because I'm all of this is segue. This is my genius. This is segue to pose a question to you. One of the things I thought that got really better with you, because you came in, you were figuring stuff out, and then you're putting all this work, right? And when you're not winning games, you feel like, I got some volleyballs for sale. I don't want to do this shit anymore, right? So I got a gorilla for sale, right?
20 T-shirts later.
But then I want you to. I'm asking, and I'm taking a long time to shape this question because it's important for other people who are playing at the level below you and the level above you. They can all learn something from Torin Jeffreys today. What changed from 2018 to 2021, 2022 that made you this guy that's just the skill set's better? These funks you get into are only now 2 points instead of 5 points. What was it? Selective amnesia? What was it? Or just a good shrink? Was it a good girlfriend named Cass?
So a lot, actually, it kind of has to do with a lot of the stuff that I talked about on Wendy's podcast.
Yes.
The other day. I started learning a lot of like very old, I guess we could call them like hidden secrets or whatever of like reality, the universe, like whom and what we actually are as human beings. Um, yeah, I've gone really deep down that rabbit hole. And the stuff that I've learned that I've been able to apply to my everyday life has given me clarity, peace. I'm happier than I've ever been. Like negative life events. Like sure, I still have, my bad days. Like I'm human. Emotions are a very real, very powerful thing. But you're also, if you understand certain things about how your emotions work and what you can do to transmute that emotional energy into something positive, if it's something negative, it really just goes a long way. And then for about the last almost a year now, like 8 months, I've been meditating for at least 20 minutes a day. Like it's like a non-negotiable every single day.
Wow,
Like,
you found time. You're like, I'm
sit.
making time for this.
Yeah, that to me that's the big one. Has been, just sometimes with music, sometimes just in a dark room by myself, like no sound, like some sensory deprivation sometimes, like learning to just being able to sit by myself with nothing but my thoughts, and then being able to control that thought stream, or sometimes you don't even try to control it, just let whatever comes into your head, experience it,
Allow it to happen.
allow it to happen, but like don't identify with it. Right? It's I did like yoga teacher training in we finished it back at the end of March.
Right.
And part of what they talk about in the Yoga Sutras, it kind of translates to like the death of the ego, right? And I think this has a lot to do with sports, and kind of what we were talking about earlier is the ego is that I amness, right? Like I am a volleyball player, I am this, like I am that. But there's a really famous quote by or from one of Alan Watts' lectures where he was talking about like that I amness, but in terms of like Taoism, because that was kind of his thing. But he asked the guy that's interviewing, he says, if I ask you this question, like, who are you? Right? Like, who are you? Like, who are you? You say, like, oh, I'm Jason. It's like, yeah, but that's not who you really are. Like, that's your name, but that's not who you are. No one can really answer that question, right? No one can really say, who they actually are, because we don't really know, right?
Well, do you think it's because we're many things?
Oh, it's definitely because we're many things, but I think that the key of what I'm starting to get at is the ego. This is where the ego kicks in, right? The ego is what causes you to identify with stuff, right? Like I am this, I am that. Like whether it be positive or negative, right? Like, oh, like I'm a good father, I'm a parent, I'm a volleyball player, I'm this, I'm that. And it can work either direction, right? But learning to let go of those identifications, right? Like the death of your ego, right? Is okay, like you have the things that you like to do and that you identify with, but you're not those things. They are just activities, right? That bring you joy. And that's it. Like we're here to experience joy and love and happiness. Like that's a huge part of the human experience, right?
It doesn't hurt.
It definitely does not hurt. So learning to experience those things, and it's kind of like the thoughts, right? Like, allowing the thoughts to come in, experience the emotions that come attached to them, but then letting it all go. Same idea, right? I go to a volleyball tournament now. I have the whole tournament experience, whether it be positive or negative. Then I walk away. That experience is over. I'm on to the next one. Now I have film and everything, like I can learn from that experience. That's what it's there for, right? Like I now have that vat of knowledge from that day that I can pull upon to apply to like the next one or like the next practice, whatever it may be. But that tournament is no longer, I'm not going to identify with that, right? Like I used to. Like I'd come back away from a tournament and be like, oh, dude, I freaking suck. Like I'm the worst player ever. Like, and everybody gets into that mind space, right? Like it's
100. Wow.
part of being human. So if you can learn to break free of that and not identify that I amness with whatever results that you just have, like only one team wins, right? Like everybody goes home a loser besides one team.
Right.
One team. So and I think that is what we were getting at too when we were talking about Kristen, right? Is that she doesn't identify with, all the noise that probably comes her way, when they have a bad tournament.
Which I'm sure she gets even when she wins.
No, 100%. Yeah. But she doesn't identify with that. She doesn't even identify with the good.
Right.
The bad, the good, the bad. Like, it's all irrelevant, right? Like, it's all just information that you can use for a better experience the next time.
Yeah.
That's it.
When you see someone like that, and in this respect, I put you and her in that same category because you don't identify with that. You really think about, what the hell is my situation that I feel like this all the time and she doesn't, right? Like, for example, she's on the podcast and it's crazy how she comes up again, but it is what it is, right? I told her the thing I like about her is she's the same Kristen, like with her fans. That little small group of fans that started this small in college or whatever. Then New Orleans had her back, right? New Orleans, the whole state, and then everybody else, and eventually California got on board. And I said, you're really, really loyal to your people, and I really, really like that. And she said, I don't really know how I can be anything anywhere else. And I said, I just want to hold her. And I said, how effed up is my life that woman, that kind of mentality is rare. What have I done in my life that put me in this messed up position where I'm always, like if someone talks about someone else's podcast and maybe not mine or whatever, that makes me feel like I have to make it about I am, where your ego identity explodes, where you're eating yourself. No one else to eat. Nobody else. You ever seen the Hurricane? When he was dealing with multiple personality, one guy was like, "Oh, I'm scared." No, he's like, "Shut the F up!" Like, you shut the F up, But the angry one was like, "Ain't nobody here to kill except you," But that's. I go through that. What's the point in all this, right? Maybe bear with me. But I go through that all the time. I go through that every time I sit still. I go through that. I think about what is gone, what has happened, what is happening now, and where do I want to go, and I become depressed because I allow myself to maybe even invent things in my head that people are not thinking about me. Maybe they are, but the crazy thing is, whether they are or they aren't, what's the point? Does it doesn't matter if they are or they aren't? No, because the net result is I'm feeling it.
Right, but here's the interesting thing, right? Like,
yeah, go ahead.
What I say is that where your attention goes, energy flows, right? So whatever you're thinking about in that given time frame, right? When you sit alone, like, and then that could even to you be like a form of meditation,
it's a problem,
right?
Dude. Yeah,
like,
it's like a problem every time I sit still.
Right, and see, that's part of it, right? Is that learning to deal with those feelings is like the first like step to like a healing process, right? It's like we all have trauma, right? Like we've all gone through X, Y, and Z. It's all relative. Like no person's trauma is greater than another's. It's all one, right? Like it's all relevant. We all experience it. It's all real. And I think that was the best thing I learned from this woman in Long Beach who had one of the most, like, I was in tears, like, just listening to her tell her story, like how she was, like, in this, like, crazy abusive rape, or, like, relationship where she was, like, basically raped a lot, and just these, like, 15 years of just absolute, just
horror.
Just, yeah, terrifying. Like, I don't know how, like, she didn't, like, kill herself. Like, that was one of my questions, like, how are you still here? How'd you get through it? But she told me, after she told me everything, because I was like, wow, like, I think one of the comments I said was like, wow, like, after hearing your story, it really makes you think, like, like, everything that I've gone through doesn't even seem to come close to anything like that. And she stopped me. She's like, no. She's like, that's BS, and here's why. everything that you've gone through and everything that you've experienced is totally relevant to your experience, right? My experience has nothing to do with yours. Sometimes they just intertwine,
Right.
right? Like we have co-experiences together.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So it's all relative. And with some of the principles that I've learned, right, is that nothing is, like, while things may appear separate, like, nothing's separate. So we all have to learn how to deal with our pasts, right? And I think you kind of see it in society right now. Like, everyone's just so, like tunnel vision of, like, I gotta get this done by, 4 o'clock today, then I get the kids food, then I gotta wake up at 4 and go to the gym, and it's all this, like, go, 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 go. Everyone's, no one's taking the time to, like, press the pause button and be like, what piece of me could I heal today? What 0.2% or whatever could I make better in my life today? And I think, that was something that I started to get in the last couple of years, is that I needed to take a little bit of time every single day to do something for me to make myself a better version of myself, whether that be sit and meditate for 20, 30 minutes, maybe do a little bit extra at work, or like go out of my way for like a guest or something to like really make sure they have a cool experience. And then you start doing these things.
Like me.
Yeah.
No,
And you start like doing these things, and then you just, like, see how good that it makes other people feel, but then vice versa, it makes you feel really good. And yeah, sure, could you be like, am I doing it selfishly? Absolutely. Like, I want to feel good too, but I'm not harming anyone. Like, and I'm bringing joy to another person's life, whether it be my own or somebody else, right? Mm. And I think, to me, that was the really big change, was making sure that I found a little bit of time to work on myself every single day. Meditation, it'll change your life. And again, like, that's the hard one, because it's uncomfortable. Your mind fights you, your body fights you. Like, it's nuts. But once you start to get under control, it's like, oh, like, you kind of start to realize, you're like, I kind of create everything for myself, right? Like, I'm in charge of my own reality, in a sense.
Does that provide an obstacle for your competitive edge? The level of self-contentment, or does the competitive edge just come from the training and that kind of takes care of itself?
No,
commensurate with your preparation.
I like to compete because it's fun.
There you go.
Like, that's it. Like, I just truly enjoy playing and competing. Just, my goal for volleyball is just to see how far I can take it. There's no 5-year plan. I'm not be like, oh, I'm going to do it till I'm 35, and if I don't make it, I'll hang it up. Like, I'm just going to keep doing it because it's fun. I don't want to stop.
I can only say this. It's very, very fun following a little bit of your journey when you finally had an opportunity to play with people as good as you or better than you, right? I always told myself, I wonder how Torin would do when he started playing tournaments with that, and it's fun to watch, dude. It's pretty cool ride. You and Moran's like, he's one of those guys that's just a competitor. He's not a competitor. He's not someone that was training every day. He goes out there and you guys take a 5th for open, right? You and Max were small balling, just having a good time. I remember Huntington, you ran into that brick wall named Amato, but let me tell you something, everybody did. If you watch the game after that.
Yeah, it was like a repeat.
Yeah, it was against Schaefer or whatever, and Ian Carlson. It was
Yeah, he had a day.
He had 13 blocks that match.
Yeah, he had a day.
Which is weird because
the wrong draw that morning.
He had the Captain Caveman look.
Yeah.
Guys, when people listening, Captain Caveman, the caveman mentality is kind of like if you're looking for a relationship, you don't take her to dinner. You grab one of those old school clubs, you hit her on the head, you drag her by the hair back to your place. That's he was in caveman mode. This is not a sexist thing. It's just Captain Caveman satirical thing. Unga bunga need food.
Yeah.
That was him that day. Just pure first chakra and third chakra, and ego exploded, groundedness, security, very secure and comfortable in his skin. Good tournament for him. Amato, I don't know what the hell I even plug in for, but he's a club coach too, so I guess I gotta respect that too. So We talked about the other, this part. Give me, out of the 6 fundamentals, passing, setting, hitting, digging, blocking, serving, what's the last 12 months? We're in June now, right? So from June last year to June this year, what was one fundamental you thought you showed significant improvement in?
Serving. I started to
It's king.
I started to just make sure at least once or twice a week I work on my serve. Like that's made all the difference in the world. It's just like, oh wait, you can control a game just by serving the ball. Who knew? What a weird concept.
Yeah.
No, definitely serving, and then, well, it's not really a fundamental, but more of like practicing awareness while you're on the court. Right, of like, okay, what's actually transpiring on the other side of the net? I was like, okay, I've served this side, and like this is without having a coach, or like, you know, like you have to do this on the fly, right? And I think this is what Miles kind of does on his own.
Yeah, it's giving them
It's like,
FIVB success, right?
Yeah,
No
I've
coach.
served this guy's sideline, made him move to his right 3 times now. 2 out of those 3 times, he's hit cross. The only time he went high line was a more inside set. Like noticing those little nuances, like can you pick up weird tendencies that like we were trying to talk about with Gene. It was like every 5th ball was a high line.
Right.
Like can you figure that stuff out on the fly? So I've been trying to be more aware of what the other team's doing, like their tendencies. And honestly, it's kind of helped me stay out of my own head about myself, because I'm just worried about what I need to take care of,
Right.
and just trying to figure out that. So I would say serving, but with a combination of that, like, okay, serving, but more of serving with a purpose, not just like, okay, I need to just hit a tough serve, I'm going to go for the sideline. It's like, no, I'm going for the sideline, but because this is what I've noticed based on what's happening, you know, throughout the set or whatever.
Yeah, and that's weird because that's the way coaches think.
Well,
that's exactly how coaches think.
Oh, it's 100%. But
yeah,
it's interesting because this is with something I talk about with Dan all the time, Dubroff, is that you can go into a game with a game plan, and you know, of course, part of our conversation, like cycling back, right? This idea of a plan and you're just gonna get tossed out.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm playing Alisson, right?
Right.
Everyone in the world knows that dude is going to bomb the ball cross, right? Maybe hit an occasional high line, just keep you honest. Give him the line, he's going to tank one down the line, right?
Right.
You know he's going to beat the living piss out of the ball. It's happening.
That's what he does. Hulk,
what he
Hulk
does.
smash.
Maybe you play him on a weird day, and like he's got something funky with his arm, and he just starts randomly hitting like crisp shots. Or like he hits like a couple and he's like, oh, like I got a cut shot today. Like, you know what I mean? Like weird stuff like that happens all
cut
the
over
time.
the force switch. Oh,
exactly.
Geez. Yeah.
Exactly.
That guy's going all the way to.
You got to figure out either, you know, change your service target or figure out a new plan on the fly, because the defense, the game plan you had to play against that version of him on that day is not going to work.
Right.
Like you got to change something. And it's like, to me, in this, people can think about this however they want, but to me, the idea of game planning, specifically in beach volleyball, is like way too subjective, right? Like you should have no problem with having like an idea of like, okay, like these are some of this team's tendencies. I think we should maybe start on this person because of this. But you could play that person and they're having a day. It's true. Like there's no
well,
it's so out of your control, but in your control if you're aware of what's happening on the fly.
Right.
Because
there were so many layers to everything you just said. But
right.
I'd
And
like
again, there's like levels to it, right? Because if you're in college, you have a coach who's there, who's statting, right? You get the walk and talk on your side switches. Like you're getting some of that information, right? AVP, same kind of deal. You can have a coach in the box. Freelance tournaments like CBBAs, you have the option. You can have a coach if you want. Rarely do I ever see a team at a CBBA with a coach.
I'm actually looking up something to show the audience, but go ahead, keep going.
And then FIVB, like you don't get a coach. They're in the audience somewhere, and like get in trouble if they're throwing some hand signals or stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you got to figure out for yourself. And I think that it makes beach volleyball such a cool sport because it's so paralleled to like life of having to figure out things on the fly. You have a plan, it doesn't work, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like there's just so many nuances that you can translate to
So
your everyday existence, I think. That
So
I think makes it really cool.
you were talking so many levels, so I'd like to just start with the most recent one.
Sure.
Like, we're going to go present to past on this one because you were also talking about. God, it all happened so fast I forgot. So let's talk about the not the former, the latter. So I want to put up something. This was Manhattan Beach last year, right? This is a pull chart on Jeremy Casper, and I showed you this already, but this is cool for the audience to see. So let's do that, and let's zoom in. Can I zoom in or not? Come on. All right, there it is. So I guess I'll just show it like that. So this is a pull chart, right? Jeremy Casper. No, this is the very top. There it is. So this was what we were talking about mathematically. Cross, cross, cross line. So for the people watching, the straight lines are hard drivens, and like the curvy lines are like roll shots at like off speeds. And so this is his serve receive chart. And this is his transition chart. He likes to dig and then create a string out of the middle. But he pretty much hits wherever he digs. So this was just first set. Let's call it pre and post technical timeout, right?
Yeah.
Now, what you're talking about is understanding these tendencies, but also at the level, the open level. Well, this is what Billy Allen's look like. So we're not. No, that's insane. So we made the choice a little pretty. Yeah, it's all over the place. So can't do that. So what you're talking about is at that level, adjustments are going to happen by the technical timeout, maybe even before it. Like we led 12-9 at the technical timeout. John Mayer is their coach. This is a student versus the teacher thing because John was one of my beach mentors. Because I came in late in the house, and I'm like, okay, I can show you how to win this first set. But like you just said, beyond that, when they start making adjustments, I got to figure it out too, right? Because to quote Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yep. That's it. Everyone has a plan to get punched in the face.
I can't even remember the other layer, and we can revisit that later. And this video is chopping again, so Facebook people, bye, goodbye again, and hello in a minute. So, yeah, we were talking about serve. Serve is king. Serve is king at every single level. You could be a 9-year-old serving 25 points in a row because the other team can't pass. You could be on the Russian national team playing for the gold, right? They're the best serving team in the world, right? And I remind everybody, France won the gold because that fifth set, 0 reception errors. So against the best serving team in the world.
Yeah, that'll get it done.
Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about. And I wanted you to take the wheel for me. There are many coaches that say, take care of your side of the net. Right. And for me on the on-court thing, I'm like, oh, okay, good for you. That only allows you to beat the teams you're better than and lose to the teams that are better than you, right? So, and when John Mayer was telling me about that, he was, I was just being a moron. He was talking about other things, like no one cannot make you do extra reps in a weight room. No one cannot make you train in the sand dunes or cross manipulate training. No one can make you not start in the right spot. Right, that's what he meant about taking care of your side of the net. But I like what you're talking about because you're talking about on the fly reading progressions. You're talking about patterns that you see on a normal day, and that pattern changes. So that's a little bit more than just taking care of your side of the net. So I thought that was a very, very brilliant point. And that was the point I was trying to make from that grounded foundational level that a lot of people didn't get because I didn't get what they were talking about. There was crossfire.
Right. Yeah. It's like you have like you said, your foundation, right? Like these are our, key principles that we operate together, that, we use as a team. And like, they're just guidelines though. Right, because sometimes you gotta throw one of them out the window.
Yes. I'm putting it back up. Facebook Live. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And I think it's rather genius. And I think that's, we're for the men, we're still staying glass half full. I think that's where Miles Partain has figured out at a very early age, right? Like if you look at some of the things he was doing at age 15 when he made the first main draw against my guy Jeff Samuels and Michael Brunsting, right? But he beat his coach to get in, like the third round. He beat Mike Playchek and Matt Motter. Yeah, that's a gnarly team to beat, right?
That's so funny too. I forgot about that. He beat his coach.
Yeah, it wasn't even the play-in. That's how.
He
But
was
that's how.
15.
But that's how deep his bracket was.
Yeah.
that wasn't even the play-in. That
Forgot
was the
about that
third round. No, and I don't remember who he had to beat, but I do remember him beating all of his qualifier teams in straight sets. I do remember some of the older guys saying, "I can't believe I'm losing to a kid half my age," which is what you were talking about. You're getting caught
That's
up.
the ego.
You're getting caught up in the other. Thank you. Go ahead and say it. That's the
I was
one.
gonna say, like, instead of getting caught up in that, just acknowledge, like, this kid's a phenom.
Yeah.
Like, he's really good. He's doing the things already that we're not doing. Like, why? Like, I can't believe. Flip the perspective on it, right? Okay, the age doesn't matter.
No.
If that's anything that can be proven, the only thing that may matter and might be something like football. But that's just because,
Right.
Puberty.
Hello. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but there are very few 15-year-olds that have like the physical bodies that could go and play in like the NFL.
No.
Right? Like that's just there's a
No.
dime a dozen that do exist, but
And for the
they just
people
can't.
listening, guys, he did it with his brother, no less, who was 17 at the time.
Right. But again, this is why this is such a cool sport, because it's very parallel to like life. Like
Right.
if you do the right things, like good things will happen for
Yeah.
you. And like him and his brother, they did all the right stuff. Like they never seemed phased when things didn't go their way.
Right.
They kept their cool. Like they played much older.
Right.
If you will. Like you would never have guessed until you like if you just looked at the scores, like who they were, until you saw like a picture, like, dude, that's like a child.
Having the right people helped too. Like
100%.
Jeff Alzina was sitting under that. Umbrella.
No, but again, like, just
he's one of the best beach coaches out there, in my opinion.
for sure. But to be that emotionally stable, mentally calm at that age,
yeah,
that is incredible. I mean, dude, I remember when I was 16. Are you kidding me, man? I was losing my mind. Like I've got like hormones. I'm like, oh, like girls hate me.
but the
like,
same Cold's approach, right?
Yeah.
Look, you're 15 years old. You're playing Jeff Samuels and Michael Brunsting in the draw. Everyone's cheering for you. He didn't hear that.
Yeah.
He didn't hear cheers. He didn't hear people booing Jeff. Like, you got full-grown adults that hear what a heckler or a fan saying to you positively that energizes you or neglects you. That
like
might
in
irritate
the NBA
you.
all the time, people yelling at the guys in
the kid was a machine.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to hold on to the whole not cutting corners thing, because for some reason I can't let that go, but I want to put that off for like 60 more seconds. This is what I said when he was in the main draw. And we won that match, Jeff and Brunsting, and they got their revenge match. They beat Doc Vandermeer and Jeff in New York, 3 sets. So, but here's the point I was trying to make back then. This is 2019. This is when both of us were making really big changes in our beach life. I said, are there people that are taller than Miles Partain? The answer is yes. Are there people that hit harder than him? The answer is yes. Are there people that are more athletic than him? Hell yeah. He's a gangly little kid, right? He's volleyball. He has to stay with that, because any other sport, he's going to get housed, like you said. Are there people who move faster than Miles Partain? The answer is yes. But yet, there he is, and there you are. Why? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you get so? He's, to me, and this goes back to what I'm saying with the men's scene. He should have been their reality check 6 freaking years ago. He should have been the reality check for men's volleyball on the beach scene 6 years ago. What are you guys doing? Yeah. I go to training outside and I watch Jose Loyola with the U.S. team and I'm cool with all of them. But I see one or two of them side-eyeing me because they're like, I'm listening to what you're saying to us on the podcast. And I'm like, why aren't you asking yourself why? Why are you cutting corners? Why are you cutting corners? Why? Jeff Samuels, who I coached a little bit because I was only coaching one guy. Sorry, Rafi, but you were dense. I sent Jeff a tape after that match, Qatar. I said, this is the finals match. This is a Mullen Sorum against Ahmed and Sharif. And I said, I want you to watch Ahmed and Sharif. I want you to watch how they pass, where their first step is when they set, where their shoulders are squaring when they're setting. And this includes jump set deception. I want you to watch them. And I joked around, not because all three of you are black, but because, Jeff, you are doing things that Ahmed is doing. You are doing things that Sharif is doing. And honestly, with all due respect to all of Jeff's partners, I want him to have a tour stop with a partner that's better than him for a change, or as good as him. Brunstein was the best one. He played one with Ricardo in Florida. Do you know what happened? They won every single set, not even close. All right. I sent him this thing because Ahmed is the type of guy that would rather make two moves to square his shoulders to the pole or square his shoulders to the net, instead of running to the net and doing this. Or running to the net to jump set to fool the block and doing this side set thing. Ahmed knows he doesn't have to do that. Ahmed is a right-handed hitter. He can jump this way and still drop his left and hit his right, which is what Miles is doing real well. Miles has a little bit of that side thing, but you notice when Miles jump sets, he's left-handed, he's this, and indoor at UCLA, same thing. Drops his right, hits his left, or fakes his right and does this. And my beef with the men's scene right now. Oh, we don't have first-class athletes. We don't have second-class athletes. Second-class athletes. I remember Todd Rogers saying that. I disagree. We have the athletes that are just good enough if they don't cut corners in their training. I've been doing this for a long time, and I know. Because when the game's tight, you have to fall back on a technique that works for you. And you've seen it on the beach. Someone falls back to something they're comfortable with but doesn't work. And you've seen it on the club scene. Someone just hitting middle of the court as hard as they can, begging the ref for a touch. Touch. It's not out. These little comfort zones. And to me, what the women figured out physically, the comfort zone is in your training, your proper training. Which I blame the players a little bit, but I blame the coach. Dude, I'm not going to make any friends after this podcast, but you can't tell me you're coaching that team, and they're in games and they're doing these things and they're flashy, right? It's really cool to watch someone jump and then side set and then there's nobody up, but it only works when there's nobody up. What happens when the block's not full? Now, trajectory wise, you're setting that person into the block. And your margin for error is behind his head or sail over tight where he has to joust. Now, it's fun. Don't get me wrong, and it's flashy, but I will tell you what's more fun and flashy and more beautiful than that. Doing it right.
I agree with that.
The game is more beautiful when you do it right.
100%. Like I said, parallels of life, right? Mm-hmm. I mean,
you're like, what do I say that doesn't get me in trouble with Jason?
No. I don't care about that. Like, that is what it is. My brain's just kind of like, okay, so I guess the question that I would pose to a lot of players, right? Like, I actually really like that point that you said that Miles, like, that he should have been the measuring stick for men's volleyball like 6 years ago. I totally agree with that.
A mile away, 15 years old.
Yeah, and he's already, light years ahead of where a lot of people think they are.
They didn't get the message.
So my question is like, okay, and I guess, again, this idea of like self-work, right? Like not just, training, but like, are you taking time to be self-reflective, like during your trainings, right? Like outside of, like I need to put my right foot a little bit more forward when I set. Like besides those like little nitpicky, like skill set things, right? Because the hard work is evaluating okay, what's my emotional state? Like there's a really good book called Mind Gym. It's a sports psychology book that I read like once a year, and the very, I think, earliest part in it talks about, like everyone has like an arousal level, like a scale of like 1 to 10, right? Of like where they need to be, like 10 being like, ah, and 1 being like totally just whatever, right? For me, I need to be at like a 3, like just very like don't say a lot, like, I'm not really one to like whoop it up, but when I'm at like that, that's where I'm at my most focused. My mind's clear. My body feels good. I don't have a lot of like, there's no extra chatter upstairs. As soon as I get higher than that,
Yeah.
that's when all the the like weird negative
Right.
thoughts can start to come in. Like, oh God, like there's another shank. Like,
Yeah.
but it's because something like brought that up in me. I got too aroused, right? And like, there was I think one of the examples was this hockey player that this guy used to work with, and he had just come out of college, like playing in the pros. He was like, everyone was like real hyped on him, and he was overpassing, like overskating the puck, and he starts working with this guy, and he's like, this guy's like, hey man, like when like what on this scale, like when do you play your best? He's like, oh, I'm usually at like a 4 or a 5. I was like, okay, like when you're getting out on the ice, like where you at? And it turns out he was redlining. He was at like a 9
Right.
when he was getting out there and didn't even realize it. When he really sat down to think about it, he was like, oh, like, yeah, I'm like way too jazzed to like be out there. I'm like, I gotta go, like that kind of deal. It's like,
And hockey's that sport though.
exactly, but
It's like lightning in a bottle for 3 periods. But go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, but again, like not everyone needs to be at, a 10 emotionally and mentally to have the physical be at that.
Right. Do you
Right.
find yourself sometimes going below a 3 to make sure you're at 3?
Sometimes. Yeah,
Sometimes
but
you're
and
just
then
like, okay, I'm calm, but I gotta get, dude, I gotta
yeah,
get
like
going
I
here.
know when I'm a little too lax.
Right.
Like I know that
Okay.
sweet spot. That gets to that kind of conversation about, everybody's heard that term flow state, right? That state, it's like everything's just firing. It's just effortless. It's as it should be for you when you get into that space, right? So not only is that like a performance thing in sports, but that's a performance thing in, the real world, business, your life.
Right.
Like, so how can you get into that state is the question. And again, this is where the real, like, I'm not talking about, just evaluating, the angle of your platform
No,
and
we're
your
talking
arm
we're
swing
talking about
mechanics.
something that goes
Like,
beyond that.
yeah, we're talking about, your mind, right? How can you get yourself into that state, that perfect zone that you need to be in to perform your best? And that's hard because a lot of people just have this like this predisposition that sports are just physical. Not just physical. They know that there's a mental component, but the physical usually supersedes the mental because you're like, okay, I have to make sure I have all the skills. I have to make sure I know how to do everything.
Except the
And
very highest level.
exactly.
Right?
But see, that's what I was going through the first like 4 years that I played. That's kind of that. Then this switch happened is that the physical is no longer the main focus. I feel like it's not even that I feel like most of the skills now are just more muscle memory for me now, right? Like,
Right.
but I've put in enough hours and time that it's gotten to that, and like that's what I needed to do, based on my background. Like I had no volleyball experience before I moved to California,
Yeah.
besides like gym class, right? And like that's a whole other, that doesn't count. So again, like that's the hard thing, and I just think that it's not an easy thing to look yourself in the mirror and be like, this is where you really need work, because you can go and you can do all the drills, you can go put in your 10,000 hours, right? But if it's not getting done and you think you've done the work, right? Like there's still that next layer to it. Okay, like again, why are we losing to a 15-year-old? Why am I only finishing, like ninth all the time?
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for it. It's just, the answer's somewhere in here. You'll find it. It's just going to require a lot of digging because, we're human.
Well, I think
we get in our own way.
I think that becomes a more bigger conversation for the teams. If we want to categorize types of teams and types of players, that rears its ugly head on the bigger stages like the semis and finals, because now you have a team, you have a semis or a finals where all four people are athletically and physically have already minded their P's and Q's, right? And you, like you said, sustainability. Who's going to be able to do it longer? Who's going to be able to fall back on something that works for them the right way? Because that mental has to lead to that physical, right? So for me, it applies more to the higher level players than the people who are trying to find their way, because you can find players out there that win on sheer will, right? Like we were talking about John Moran. That guy don't train. He's winning games because his IQ is there, his mind is right, and he can and technique wise, that leads to this. He can out technique a lot of people, and people scratch their head and figure out how they lost to a guy who, hasn't made a final since the NVL in 2016, right? So,
right. But again,
but from the qualifier, because that's the kind.
Yeah.
Come on, that's the kind of man Moran is. I'm a man of Moran. But go ahead.
Well, to that point though, right? Like someone like myself compared to Moran, like where we're both at in our lives, right? He's played for like 30 plus years,
but very
right?
yeah,
and like at a very high level. I haven't even played for 10 yet. I think I'm at like 8. Yeah, I think I've played volleyball for 8 years now. Mm-hmm. And like maybe competitively for like 6 of those 8 years.
Got it.
So you could still say, if you want to, use that like time as like a measuring stick, sure, that like I'm still like in my like infancy of volleyball, right? Like that's not a long time to play, especially based on my age. I'm 30.
Yeah.
Compared to a lot of people who are 30 that have played there since they've been like 10, right?
Yeah, like if you're talking to like a large percentage of players, circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Like, it's all circumstantial based on your experience level, which is why I didn't want to categorize anything. I just make it more kind of like everyone needs to be doing this, whether it's for volleyball, whether it's for, just your everyday life. Mm-hmm. Because once I started doing that, it actually made it easier for me to get better with my skill sets, right? Because I was being much more honest with myself. I wasn't hiding from the real problems that I was having. And I feel like that's what a lot of people do.
Right.
Is when you're not dealing with the emotional, the mental, as much as the physical, like, dude, the emotional is scary.
It really is.
Like, it's terrifying to go have to, like, if you allow it to be, right? To have to go into like your thoughts, your mind, your brain, and deal with all those like negative thoughts that you might have while playing, and
right,
like it's not easy. There was I saw a video on Instagram the other day. This guy, he said, if you were standing at the edge of a lake, and on the other side, so like a mile and a half long swim, right? On the other side, if you can swim across this lake. You get to the other side, you get everything. All your dreams will come true. Everything you've ever wanted. Like, you will have it. You just have to make this mile swim. But while you're swimming, like, this lake represents all the trauma you've gone through, all the negative emotions, every loss you may have had, like, whatever it may be, all the negative stuff that you've experienced in your life. You are going to re-experience all of that while you swim. Would you swim? Mm-hmm. And you ask people that, and it's... Me, I'm like, hell yeah. Like I don't care. I'll go through it. I've already been reliving a lot of those things because I knew there were a lot of stuff that I had to work through. And it wasn't easy, dude. Like, there's still days that, something old will come up that just really, tugs at your heartstrings, gets you down, whatever. But when it happens, I now have a skill set to, deal with it. But you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the question is like, can you deal with the really hard stuff?
Yeah. Well, the difference between you and a lot of other people is like using your lake analogy is that it's more significant to make the swim than the wild anticipation of what's on the other end. That be somewhere along the line what's on the other end of the lake that you swam so hard to get to becomes less important than the swim itself.
Oh, you
And
feel like
that's
you
just
probably get about halfway through that swim and
yeah.
realize this is way more valuable than whatever is I think that I
Yeah.
want on the other side,
Hmm.
right? And
And that's the difference between you and a lot of people. We've known each other for a long time, probably almost all of those 10 years, right? Or close to all of those 10 years. Mathematically, I would say 7. Um, and that's what changed, I think, mentally for you. I think for you there was this destination that you thought would give you the accolades and the respect that you worked so hard to get, that people should take interpretive notice, just as you given them their respect and gave them their notice, right? And then somewhere along the way, you're like, wait,
it doesn't matter.
it's a cool story.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look, Avengers Endgame, you can watch the end and get everything you need to know out of that. But man, you're missing a fun journey. You're missing the fun journey on how they had to get all 6 stones, right? So,
Yeah.
the end means something, but I don't know.
And like, and here's my kind of where I'm at personally, like with my like volleyball career and everything, right? Is that
Dion says, Tori, nice get. Dion Trujillo.
Leon?
Yo, Dion's a chef. He's a sushi chef. I'm gonna tell you
So
about
he
him later.
is.
Come see me. Go ahead.
Where I'm at personally with it all though is like, do I want to win? Sure. Like I like winning's fun, right? Like to come out on top, take down a tournament, whatever. But what I realized, like you kind of said, is like it's the journey, man. Like that's really it. Like I've had some of my best days just going and playing CBAs with some of my friends. That have we had the best day? Nah. Like we maybe didn't even like pull out of like a double A or something, right? It doesn't get me down anymore. Like it doesn't matter. Like I said, they're learning, they're teaching tools. It's an experience, right? That's all it is. It's just an experience. Okay, oh, maybe you had a bad experience. I'm like, oh, you know what? Like even if I get on a plane and go eventually when I go play like a 1-star somewhere, right? Even if I go and lose the qualifier, what a cool experience though to like to have to deal with that, right? Like what an opportunity to it's gonna suck. Like it's not gonna be fun to go and lose a game, in like the Philippines where I've spent, like a couple grand probably on like making the trip happen, right? It's for one match. Like, but again, it's all about how you perceive it, right?
Sure. Some people make that trip just to look at rocks.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But that would be part of it is like knowing that, like just because I flew out here and lost doesn't mean that there's still not more to experience while I'm there.
I agree.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
to me that's it. Like winning isn't the end game anymore.
No.
For me, it's
I
not.
also find myself being a fan of people who embrace the technique of volleyball, embrace the mentality, embrace the momentums, the ups and downs, and kind of winning and losing takes care of itself, right? We were talking about Partain and Banesh, by the way, and I wanted to also cite that Andy Banesh's training habits are significantly better. Like,
Oh,
he's
dude.
not cutting corners.
Oh, no,
He's doing his releases faster on the set. You know what I'm saying? As a coach, I've been doing this for a long time, and I know when someone's training's better and his training's better. But I wanted to caveat that. But I wanted to talk about them one last time because when they won Huntington, it was anticlimactic because they were just in their zone. And they didn't even know that. They didn't even know what the hell the score was. I'll bet you, if I interviewed them, they didn't even know that
The ref was just like,
they didn't even
"Game's
realize
over."
they won, and they did this at the end, shook hands, and everybody's like, oh, they did that because they knew they had bigger fish to fry than Huntington. And I'm like, no, they're not, because they weren't thinking about winning and losing. And you gotta let us TV, man. You gotta let us monitor. It does whatever it wants. But and that is why I wanted to cite them one last time. And the other thing is, I'm a big fan of Trevor Krapp. Had him on the podcast, and I think the thing that's unique about Trevor is he allows himself to step to open the fourth curtain or the fourth wall,
Mm-hmm.
engage with the fans a little bit, just enough where he feels their energy because he feeds off of both, positive or negative, then shuts the curtain and goes back to whatever. The reason why I'm a fan of that guy is because of that. We all play to win, but he's thinking more just about one point at a time. And he's another one of those guys when the match is over, he'll do this, he'll shake hands and he'll shake hands with the ref, and then he'll take this time to stand in the middle of the center court and then be like, then all of a sudden the rush comes, right? And this is anyone that's ever won anything in their life. If you've never won anything in your life at a heightened level, I'm not even talking about volleyball now. I'm talking about something that you work so hard to get to, that when you finally get there, there's this feeling when you get there, it's not celebratory because you're still locked in. You're not paying attention to the score or whatever. When you get there, there's this anticlimactic feeling. But then when you get a chance to take it all in, you just might cry like a grown man. You might cry your freaking eyes out. You feel it here, and it comes crashing into your fourth chakra. That ability to feel, that ability to love and be loved.
That's just pure joy.
Boom. Just it's one of the greatest feelings in the world. Now, the only reason why some people might feel it when the score happens is because they might look at the score when it's match point. And then there's this level of anxiety, and maybe they get that last point and they burst, or maybe match point, they're giving up another one, It's like, all right, I got to lock back in. I feel like I'm playing keep away ball here, instead of whatever. So I wish everybody, because not everybody can feel that at a certain level. Now, sports is the biggest example because the work you put in to get to that moment, whether you win or lose, means a lot to this small number of people. Volleyball, beach volleyball is double, so of course it's more heightened. But, dude, the Army, I graduated boot camp. That was awesome. I couldn't do more than 9 push-ups when I was in boot camp, in the beginning of boot camp. Passing the fitness test, qualifying with a weapon, then going to AIT, graduating with a 92.28 average, learning about diesel generators and this and that. There is this small feeling of the drill sergeant, pinning the AIT ribbon on you, pinning the National Defense Desert Storm thing and saying congratulations. You cry a little bit, but it's not as heightened because it's a collective. I got the same thing everyone in my platoon that worked as hard as me got. So that's different. You're talking like 23 people now, instead of 2 or 10, it's 1. It's one of the greatest feelings in the world. It really is.
No, it 100% is.
Yeah.
I've had those moments in high school and stuff, and even just getting through yoga teacher training, that was 10 weeks of a lot. That was hard.
Yeah. You get to the end of that too. There's a moment that's a milestone where you have to take that moment, right?
No, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that moment for about 5
How'd
seconds.
that feel?
I went to work.
I was gonna ask you how'd that feel. You're like,
it was good. I was like, hey, I gotta go to work.
Oh my God, you're like Eminem from 8 Mile. You just won the freaking rap battle. It's like, where you going, man? We're gonna celebrate. He said, man, I gotta go back to work. Remember the end of 8 Mile? Yeah. I gotta go back to work. Someone's covering for me just for this shit. So yeah. And I felt that way when I got my college degree too, because I was a guy that was a boy interrupted. I was this academic, and then something happened in my teenage life where I went from straight A's to failing every class. This thing that happened in my life, and to bounce back from that, and my mom, who I don't have a strong relationship with, like my mom, who basically hosted the party, and on the Upper East Side at my favorite bar where I sing karaoke, said, now I can die. That's how, guys, that's how moms do, man. Now look, for you guys listening, where you're from an academic family where people are supposed to go to college and people are supposed to graduate college, and y'all ain't got to worry about student loans, or maybe you do, or maybe you don't. Maybe you got rich mommies, maybe you got full scholarships. When you're from a family like mine, and you're only the second person to graduate. Look, my mom at the time was the first. But then after that, all the siblings. When your mom says, now I can die, Come on, people. All right, back to volleyball. Give me one thing fundamentally that you'd like to show significant or smaller improvement on fundamentally. We're talking about hitting, blocking, serving, passing, digging, setting.
I would definitely say by being more dynamic offensively. like consistently, because I know I can do it.
Are you talking about hitting?
Yeah, hitting.
Okay, yeah.
Like definitely.
Boy, once you know you can do it, it's like,
Well,
wow.
again, it's like you said, we kind of fall into old habits, right? Tendencies, all that kind of thing, and I find myself going back to what I trust instead of being like, hey, like, just just try something different. Who cares? Hit the ball out, whatever.
Yeah.
Try it again.
It's weird. The last time I was actually physically able to play, I remember we were doing reps with remember Greg Schenkel?
Yeah.
Greg Schenkel, guys, former NCAA champ, Pepperdine, played with Dane Blanton, played with Tom Sorensen.
He was actually, I think he was Kevin Wong's first partner.
Yeah.
Oops.
I see him every day. It fell out.
Yeah, I think they live right down the street.
Let's do that. Actually, you could work it if you want, so you can hear it.
That's good.
That?
That's good, yeah.
Yeah. We actually walk our kids are 1 grade apart, so we walk our kids to school every morning.
Oh, nice.
But we're playing a doubles game. It's him, me, you, and the great Greg Faulkner,
That's
who's
right, we had Greg
the hitman for hire, right?
Yeah.
If you watch the video, because I watched the video, the only person that got served at least was you. It was just all of us were comfortable, and guys, we're talking about a lesser level here, but we're talking about something everyone can relate to. Would you rather deal with the power, or would you rather deal with this pain in the ass? This guy whose shot game and power is a great mixture. I just showed you guys a pull chart with Case, Spear, and Allen, right? Yeah, earlier in the podcast. Who do you think we served more? Do you think we served Billy Allen? No, we did not. But that's how I knew you arrived. I'm like, well, okay, this isn't random. He's a real, he's a real professor. He's a real player. He sees me. He sees me. Oh man, you working tonight?
Yeah. I work at 4:30. I think. Yeah, 4:30.
Yeah. Did they mandate you have a vaccine?
No.
All right, good.
They tried to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the owners didn't. The state did.
Yeah, well, here's the problem with that. When the president declared the pandemic over, the EUA, which is the emergency use authorization for the vaccine, expired. And when it expired, no one can legally make you take it anymore. It's not fully FDA approved. It's never been fully FDA approved. There'll be some articles in the news that say fully FDA approved, but they have to put in parentheses under the EUA.
Right.
But the headline, they could put fully FDA approved, but somewhere in their writing they have to cover, they have to CYOA, which was a good sales point for them. But I was vaccinated twice, so it's not like I'm an anti-vax guy. It's not, but though I had 2 problems during this pandemic. One, someone saying that you have to take this, right? I had a huge problem with, and 2, no liability, right? I had a friend of mine that joined the company, and they were mandating you take it. You know what he said? He drew a contract up that says, I want you to sign this that says that if I get hurt, I get to sue you guys. No. No. Why?
Yeah.
So those are the only 2 problems. The one, when we found out it was no longer a pandemic against the unvaccinated, like people that were vaccinated were getting it too. You shouldn't make someone take something that they don't want to take. This is different from like our children being immunized, like things that have been, things that 50 years of testing and all the mistakes we made till we finally got it right. So sorry, guy.
Oh no, I have a lot of
thoughts about
thoughts
that.
about.
Now that's a skip. I don't even know.
This.
I mean, we could do a skip on this.
No, I'm
there's
fine
so
with
many
it.
more
It's
interesting
just,
things to talk about then.
Yeah.
People
are already aware. I'm the conspiracy theorist.
Well, they're called spoiler alerts now, right?
Yeah, something like that.
2 years, 2 conspiracy theories 2 years ago was spoiler alerts.
Dude, it's.
Well, to me, it's angering. When you came, I was angry. I feel better because you always come in with peaceful and all that stuff and make me feel better. But I'm angry because it's still like on a large newsworthy network basis. It's still a story to them. There are still people wearing masks. There are still people that are saying you have to get this booster or whatever and this and that. That was only approved by.
I mean,
that wasn't even. There was no human trials. It was tested on 8 mice. It's crazy.
Oh man, I mean, you want to go down a rabbit hole? We could go down a rabbit hole.
We could always cut this. We're at 1:30. I know where to cut if we don't want this.
We could go down a rabbit hole. Okay. So, where do I start with this one? Okay, so let's look at like big picture, right? But we all know, like, there's no like secret, right? Like most governments, they're all like kind of in some sense like interconnected, right? Like this whole thing with like NATO, the WHO,
Sorry, that's
all that.
my bad. I was showing volleyball by accident. I was showing the top 15 for men. Scroll, and there's an American team. Sorry, go ahead.
The world is actually just run by a very small group of people, right? They're based in Geneva, Switzerland. Never noticed nothing bad ever happens in Switzerland. It's always neutral.
Yeah.
They didn't have to do the whole lockdown bit.
No.
Right? Yeah.
Not for me, but for thee.
Yeah, exactly. So, gosh, there's so many levels to all this. The world is run by Phoenician Babylonian bankers.
All right.
Like if you
All right, this is Torin. This is Torin diving in. Let's go.
So
for my people on YouTube, relax. This is a theory, and we will tell the truth later.
Yeah. So if you start tracing back history, right, there's a lot that has to do with like religion and when like banks and stuff were first started. The Rothschild family, how they actually changed their names and like all these things. Like, you can kind of do your own research. I won't get into it super deep. But
I've actually met Fred Rothschild, and I met Lilo, his wife. I met them before, but go ahead.
Right. But so I think there's like, they call them like the 6 families or whatever. Is it 6 or 9? One of those, 3, 6, or 9 numbers. If you look at religion, right, and what it actually is. So it kind of came about is that what they realized through once banks kind of became a thing, that were like, oh, hey, if you can get everybody to think the same, like we can control all the money and like the population is like the basic, like very short synopsis of what somebody figured out, right? So, how many times has the Bible been changed? How many times has the Quran been changed? Et cetera, et cetera.
From them, the King James to
the new edition to this, to that. But why? Like, why do they keep changing it? Like, and, like, why do, Christians and all that, like, basically don't acknowledge that there was stuff, like, that predates Christianity. There were civilizations that predate Christianity. I've talked about, like, ancient Mesopotamia, Sumeria.
You would think the world was only 5,000 years old if you only followed.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. No, like, human civilization's been around for a very, very long time. It's cyclic. Like, every 26,000 years, roughly, like, there's some cataclysmic event that, like, the Earth, like, resets itself, right? It happens.
Yeah.
So if you take religion, right, and really start to like analyze it like across all continents, like all over the world, right, is that every single religion for the most part has a very similar story with very similar symbolism. For example, if you take your Egyptian, they're not actually like gods, we'll just use the word gods for now, right? The Egyptian gods, like Ra. 12 followers, died on December 25th, was reborn after 3 days. Like, all the exact same symbolisms
of Orthodox Christianity.
Of Orthodox Christianity. You have very similar stuff in Judaism. Not with Jesus, but I forget the whatever. Same thing with stuff in like South America. Even like Buddhism has like stuff with like the number 12, like followers, all those kind of things. They all have the same symbolism, right?
So they had an Instagram account there. They'd have 12 followers, and those followers would have all the thousands of people.
There's a movie called Zeitgeist.
Yeah.
That breaks it down really well. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. watch the first 20 minutes of Zeitgeist, they break it down really, really well in terms of like all these religions are talking about the exact same thing, right? Like the exact same thing. So it begs the question, how did all of these people spread out so far over the world have the exact same like cache of information, right? Like how did they come to very similar conclusions or, you know, like writings and stuff? Well, it to very clearly states that like there was someone going around teaching them things, and then they were just putting it in like texts and like all these kinds of things, right? And like you've seen the stuff with like, you know, I think the Pentagon and when it's come out, like, oh, there might be like a like a mothership, like, you know, hovering on our galaxy, like checking us out, like all those kinds of things, like these slow rolls of like extraterrestrial disclosure.
Dude, and
right?
that's hit the news so bad I refuse to click on it because my bandwidth, my conspiracy bandwidth is too full right now. I see that UFO, whatever, Pentagon. I'm like, no, I'm not clicking on that. But go ahead.
So I had the pleasure, I actually met someone who their contract, they used to work in some like underground government programs, like military, like deep stuff, right? That his contract ended, so he can like talk about.
Does he live
stuff
here?
That worked at. He's in California. Yes.
We might know. We might know the same guy. Oh my
I don't
God! We
think
ain't
so.
saying the name. No names.
It's definitely not the same guy. Definitely not the same guy.
All right, good.
But he basically confirmed a lot of things that I had questions about, you know, like technologies that exist. Our government's been working with extraterrestrials for years,
Right.
like basically since like the formation of our government, right? So they exist. There's this technology out here, and we've all heard the stories, right? Like people, the conspiracy theorists, whatever, that question, like, oh, you know, like extraterrestrials built the pyramids, they did this and this. Well, they did. They definitely did build them. Not how we could really understand how at this point in our existence as humans. Like
there had to be a great reset. Like if humans did this, and you're saying something entirely different, but if humans did this, the technology they had in the mathematics before whatever great reset that got rid of all that must have been phenomenal. Well, or it's your theory, amongst other theories.
There's a lot of people. I mean, this is the information that's coming from people who are a lot smarter than me that basically like study this for like a living.
Yeah,
right?
Graham Hancock.
Graham Hancock.
Jesus, he's such an interesting guy to listen to for hours. Yeah. You know, because like you said,
trust me, I have.
I like that he makes it make sense. Look, the reason why there are conspiracy people out there because they see something and it makes sense to them. Okay, so I'll leave that at that. But go ahead.
So like the way that we understand like a lot of like what religion actually is like the Bible is actually an acronym so basic instructions before leaving Earth. That's what it means. It's an instruction manual.
Wow.
But you have to have a very deep understanding of human physiology, astronomy, and astrology to actually understand what it's talking about. Because it's like literally a gateway to how to heal yourself.
Without that, it's unbelievable. It's not believable. Without the embracement of what you said,
exactly.
The other, it's not plausible.
But once you start to understand that all the characters, the events, and all these things that are actually in the Bible are actually like information that you can utilize for like the betterment of like yourself, like and humanity. And it's the same thing with all your religious texts, like the Torah, the Quran, like they're all like these instruction manuals. And then you take stuff like the language of like use Hebrew, for example. It's very mathematically based, right? If you take the numerical assignments of the Hebrew alphabet and cross-reference them with the elements that make that like humans are made out of, like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen.
Yeah. Boy, Ty
The
Loomis
first
would have a field day with this.
Oh yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
Ty probably knows a lot of this stuff already, I would imagine. But
Sorry, go ahead.
it literally spells out, um, like, like Yahweh in our DNA. Like the first line of every person's DNA spells out God in
Right.
Hebrew.
Yahweh, yeah. Yep. Think
That-
of also,
not an accident.
not to mention, whether you're reading the Torah, or whether you're reading the Quran, or whether you're reading the Bible, some of the stories told that provide these valuable lessons and teaching tools so we can be decent human beings and
100%.
not do whatever
But
we want.
there's levels to them though.
Well, there's levels to them because they're, in order for it to be a story, to be a memory to be passed on and taught, it has to be bigger than it is. For example, right? Like, this is my own personal belief. This is my bro history. David and Goliath, right? Like, in the Bible, you have, I think they describe him as like 16 or 20 feet tall, right? Maybe in reality, maybe he was like a 7-footer, you know, amongst people who were generally shorter at that time, right? So it's still intimidating. But if he's only 7 feet tall and not 20 feet tall, this is a story worth telling. You know, and in our mind, we think we could take a baseball bat and club Jack, you know, Jack,
Yeah.
or Robbie Page, or, you know, someone, or Avatar, right? And in our mind, it's not a story because we don't need, you know, you could use a slingshot and hit the right part of his head at the right time, or you could just take a bat to his knee, so you're okay. But you know that ain't happening. Take a bat to a 20-footer. He go, ow! And then he looks at you and you're like, oh, shoot, run!
Yeah.
Run! So I believe that sensationalism was necessary, or exaggeration was necessary to make these stories
No, 100%.
pass generation to generation to generation, because I think what you and me were talking about, what they perceived as a decent society, or were teaching tools, which is why, what you were talking about earlier, why the Bible changes like every 500 years. There's this version, that version.
But
it changes for what they deem societal change.
Right, but check this out though, right?
Yeah,
so
please.
we can use that story as an example of kind of like the stuff that's actually like hidden in there. So you can look at the David versus Goliath story as like, you know, David trying to conquer his ego, right? Like Goliath, you know, ruler giant. I don't know the story all that well, but
I mean, for everyone educated, let's just call it a one-on-one, right?
Yeah,
David's
exactly.
tiny, he's big, he has a slingshot. Go.
Right, but it shows how fragile the ego is, right? That all it took was one stone to threaten it, to bring it down, right? So that's like a major triumph, because there was a lot of problems leading up to that moment,
Right.
with David and Goliath, right? Like there was it's a whole, you know, story.
Yeah.
So like the outcome of it is basically like conquering the ego. Like this is what happens when the ego gets too big, right?
You just
That kind of
might
sense.
get killed by a rock.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
Your ego's too big, careful.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of, you know, like fun little, like for example, the whole idea of, like, you know, like Jesus dying and then being resurrected after 3 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of levels to that one. There's this whole thing like this secretion, which that's a whole like podcast worth of conversation. But you can look at it something like fasting, right? Like what happens when you fast for 3 days?
Mm-hmm.
Your body activates its defense mechanisms after 24 hours, 48, 72. When you hit 72 hours into fasting, your body starts to naturally produce growth hormone. It's like the equivalent of a very low dose of steroids, right?
Okay.
But it starts to heal itself. It's the most long lost, forgotten cure for disease, illness, physical ailment. Like, just don't eat for 3 days.
Yeah.
Or if you can continue sending it out, like, your body starts to really do really cool stuff. Like, I fast all the time. Like I'm
You
actually
do like a 24-hour one, or
I'm actually going 72 hours right now. So I'm what time is it? I'm about like 36 hours, some middle, maybe almost 40 hours in, something like that.
whoa.
Yeah, I've has like matcha with like I make my own like almond milk at home and like
Okay.
water and like I supplement with like shilajit, but I just don't feel like I need food. I played a tournament. I went up, flew up and played with Chris Ships up in Oregon. We played 13 sets of volleyball. I had eaten in 48 hours,
That's crazy, dude.
and all I drank was water the whole day.
Stayed calm,
It
stayed
was
cool,
fine.
stayed
I
collected.
didn't. I
Yeah.
had tons of energy.
Yeah.
Like it's what I've learned nutritionally over the last year. Everything that we think is correct, that we've like been like indoctrinated to, like that we grew up with,
The science is settled.
it's wrong.
I,
It's wrong.
I'm being facetious.
No, I know. It's just
yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Like you had what's his face, Sal, whatever the carnivore MD guy on.
Oh, Bart K.
Bark, okay, him, yeah, whatever
I
his
love
name
that
is,
guy.
yeah,
Well, I had Phil Escott too, but
yeah, but the carnivore MD, like,
Right.
Again, if it works for you, by all means, like go for it, right? But what I've learned about food, like how the human body works, and like structured water, like H3O2, not H2O. What we're
Right.
actually made of H3O2, like the structured like jelly water, is like we're technically designed to be frugivores, right? Like we should be basically just be eating like fruit. Like we're the most like divine, like higher consciousness beings walking around on this planet right now.
mm-hmm.
But we behave like animals, like lower vibrational, right? Like
because we are.
we are animals, but we have the choice to do better. Because there's this thing called the law of one, right? Like this idea that like everything's interconnected, which physics has actually kind of proved that through like quantum entanglement, right? But everything's interconnected. And to me, like I can't really fathom, like every once in a while I'll have a little bit of meat just because like I did used to like really enjoy it, but it's hard for me to like ingest it now. Just I've had some really weird experiences over the last year
Yeah.
with like animals and that kind of stuff that have totally flipped my perspective on a lot of things.
Of course, yeah.
Um,
That was your perspective, because that was your own personal perspective.
yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's my own personal perspective. It's like again, there's no right or wrong way to live your life. Like
No.
I'm not telling anybody what to do.
No,
I'm
you're
just-
you're talking about like maybe factory farming and maybe slaughtering of animals, maybe this and that, or maybe or
Yeah.
maybe not.
Well, here's
right?
something people don't consider, right? Like animals experience emotions,
Mhm.
right? So
Every animal does, though.
exactly.
Okay, good.
Exactly.
So we're,
To
good.
some
So we
extent,
can,
every
no, but we can
animal
continue. Nah,
experiences
good.
some form
as
of
long as
emotion,
we understand
right?
that.
Like
Mhm.
like most people
Not just cows.
had a pet, right?
But not
Like,
just
all
cows.
of them. They all do.
Yeah.
They all do.
All right.
If you're going to ingest something, right? Like for example, you're going to die. Your brain
With-
releases certain chemicals that go into your bloodstream that create that fear response, right? And all that. So now consider that you're about to eat an animal that wasn't like killed, like in a much more natural, like fair, like, like wild living, like just like shot, clean kill.
Right.
That experienced fear its entire life. Like it was in a pen for, 15 years, however long, you know what I mean? But
That is a different kind of animal,
it's
though,
been-
right? I mean, chickens are.
But even still,
We,
still, they're still experiencing some sort of negative emotional state. That's in their bloodstream, and that's being sent out to people to consume.
right.
And like you are what you eat. Like there's a reason that people say that. Like you're consuming that into your DNA. You're ingesting those chemicals that produce fear and all that. Like you're putting that into yourself. I think that
Interesting.
might be a thing to consider with,
Can't we say the same thing about plants that are also
No,
living things?
you 100%. You 100% can say
Yeah.
the same thing about plants. The only thing that truly wants to be eaten is fruit. Fruit is the only thing that wants to be eaten. because how does it live?
Yeah.
That's how it spreads its seeds. You eat the seeds, you poop them out
Yeah,
somewhere
well,
else, and then a new tree grows somewhere. You know what I mean?
I had someone at my job follow something called a glycemic index. Right, she was a diabetic, not the one, not the type 1 and type 2. There's one, doesn't matter if you're in shape or not, and then there's the fat people diabetic, right? She was a fat person diabetic, had a cane, had muscle stiffness, and then started following a glycemic chart, like blood sugar, just not going cold turkey on something that's completely healthy, right? We're just gonna eat cardboard if that's the case, right? Which doesn't feel any pain. And strawberries, right, were like medium low. And like strawberries are good for her skin complexion, so her skin complexion got better. Blueberries were, serve as a good antioxidant. That was on the medium low glycemic, whatever. Now all of a sudden she has more of a total trim, and she's pooping better. And in a year and a half, no cane. Muscle stiffness went away, got rid of the cane, just started walking. And we watched this woman transform in front of our very eyes, almost to a point where like someone was like, you look a little bit frail. And she's like, you're being a hater because I'm losing all this weight. She got a little defensive, but I think he was overtly concerned because in his mind, if in that guy's mind, your body changes, and if you're fat, that's how life, what I'm saying? Because he was trained to believe if your body changes and you're fat, you're just gonna get fatter, and that's it. That's life. And she decided to change that, and I knew where she was coming from because I went through a similar experience that I'm not going to talk about because, we're flowing here, and if I make it about me, it f's up the whole thing. But I wanted to tell that story about her. But the only reason why I brought it up is because the glycemic index, the lasting memory in my head, there were different food groups, for it. But I paid attention to the fruit one.
Right.
And I was surprised and shocked and amazed which ones were highest on the glycemic index.
Well,
like dates, bananas, and pineapples, right? Which volleyball players eat pineapples and bananas all the time, right? And which were the medium low. Go ahead, continue.
Well, I was going to say the glycemic index is a nice tool, but when it comes to like fruit, what you have to understand is the way that the sugars that are present in it, like, get processed by your body, right? Like people can look up the difference between how like monosaccharides get processed, which is like your naturally occurring sugar, and like fructose, and then like a disaccharide, which is more like your processed sugar, right? Monosaccharides basically get processed in your, like basically like burned off in like your liver, I believe it is, and then the other ones actually have to go through your pancreas so they can be filtered and then processed by your liver, right? So your natural sugar is basically just pure energy that your body's just going to process like that, right? Like there's no...
But that's more calories though, right? That's like photons of light, heat.
I mean, calories are even kind of the long way to like look at it. Like we're electrical beings, like we're electrical based, right? Like we should be measuring energy in kilojoules. Like seriously, we 100% should.
I'm laughing because it's true. It's very,
Seriously.
very true.
Like look up if you have anyone that's listening or whatever wants to pull time, like
Look it up now.
kilojoules in like whatever fruit, like in a serving of like a mango or whatever, right? Like calories are kind of just like a guesstimate of how much energy is present in something, and then they're usually at least like 30% either direction, like more or less, and sometimes greater.
Wow. Eating dried fruit regularly is not recommended. It is high in kilojoules and can stick to the teeth and increase the risk of dental decay, as you can easily eat more than you realize. How many kilojoules is in an apple? 300. Dude, I'm just going through this. Wow. How many kilojoules in a banana? Okay, 371 energy-wise. Amount. I guess depending on the banana, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but you're right. Like, look, I'm just giving you two. I just wanted to give you one example. This is a person that didn't eat a lot of meat. She had some chicken, some poultry or whatever, and this and that, some turkey, like leaner meat. Cut bread almost completely out because, especially California, is weird bread. It's just like hard water, soft water bread. Like New York, I ate bread all my life. I ate bread all my life in New York, never got fat, and I moved here, and I don't even want to eat pizza anymore. I don't even want to eat pizza anymore, dude. So that's an example of someone who didn't go the carnivore route. And then Huntington Beach, woman comes up to me. Or I'll just name her name. Only her first name. Her name is Melissa. Really sweet person. She says, "I listen to your podcast all the time," and I made me feel good about myself. And I'm like, this one's gonna we're gonna shoot the sheriff about volleyball. She definitely wants to talk shop about volleyball. So I'm already prepared. And she's like, she saw the podcast with Bart K, which she got a lot from, but the guy after him, Phil Escott, very similar to Bart K. And I'll tell you about him later. But she said she listened to the podcast and she went on a carnivore diet, and like the love handles went away. She was like this totally trim, ripped person. She had like, she said I'm just describing, she used to have a face that looked, like, I guess acne or whatever. I call it the pepperoni pizza face. Gone. Her face, her skin complexion was really, really, really smooth. And she wanted to thank me for having that guest on my podcast. And I'm like, this is so cool. First of all, it's so cool because it's a volleyball driven podcast. But this person wants to take a picture with me because of Dr. Bart K and Phil Escott. Yeah. So this is just an example of how this person lost the weight. She's healthy. Yeah.
I mean, again,
and it saved her life because she was 66.
Yeah, and it's not a one size fits all. That's why I have nothing against people that take that route. Like I do. I used to eat meat all the time.
And look at you. You played a tournament and didn't even eat.
Yeah, and it's fine. Like it was fine. Like I could have kept playing. We played 13 sets. I was like, I still got like another couple.
No, but I appreciate your sentiment on doing what works for you, but also realizing the science behind that, your body recovery from that and such. So, because I don't get into the sociological or the what do you call it? The social issue aspect of it, right? Oh, you're killing all those animals, and I'm like, these people aren't doing their stats. There are more animals that actually die to feed people vegetables than people killing animals to eat meat. So then that's a stat that nobody wants to talk about.
No, yeah, 100%.
Which is why I
talk about pesticides.
But which is why I don't engage with people like that. But I will have this conversation because one, I'm getting an education from you because you are one of those guys that do their homework, right? We talked about Dr. Bart K. He has 4 advanced medical degrees, but I got more from the guy after him, Phil Escott, who studied rheumatoid arthritis and carnivorism for 33 years. He has seminars in the UK and doctors come and they fly in and listen to this guy who's not a doctor. So I get more education and just more insight. And this is a great conversation, dude. Like I talk about aspartame, like, cause I drink a lot of Diet Coke, Pepsi, but not Diet Coke anymore. And your body recovery from aspartame versus levels of aspartame. Right? For the most part, it's in it because whoever's making it knows it might hurt you, but it'll hurt you if you drink a 2-liter bottle twice a day for a week.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. I mean, if you're drinking 2 Diet Cokes a day, you're talking about extended period of time.
What are the other things you were talking about? Saccharin. You talk about other elements that are like in sugar, different types of sugar. It's more about which intake and body recovery.
Exactly, and then like finding what works for you. Like there's this is kind of where the astrology component kind of comes into it. There's these things called our cell salts, right? So when you're in your mother's womb for 9 months, you accrue 9 of the celestial cell salts that are like already present in you. So then the other signs that you don't pass underneath, like through your births, like I'm a Sagittarius, so I am missing like Capricorn, Aquarius, and is it Aries? I think it's Aries. So there's certain foods that have certain substances in it that are those like cell salts, right? So there's certain things that everyone should eat based on when they were born that's going to like give you the rest of what your body needs. Now, they kind of circle back to, like the carnivore diet working. Well, it works because if you're eating, high quality like meat, right, like especially animal organs, right? There's a lot of mineral content in those because we're mineral.
But that's our anthropology as well, right?
Exactly. Right. But again, like mineral content in water, food is going to trump everything else. Yeah. Because like that's the essence of life, right? Like minerals. That's what we need. That's why I could.
But even they will admit you need vitamin C. You need a source of vitamin C, which is fruit. Because we as humans, we used to. I don't know if you know this. We used to be able to reproduce and build our own. We can't do that anymore. So I think 800 years ago we became codependent. They had kids, and now it's gone. So even like you're talking about the fruit thing, even they have to admit Yeah. You know what I mean? Did you still got that thought?
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. So I mean, minerals are the best. I mean, well, I was going to ask you if you want to talk about a real far-fetched one. This was the one that I wasn't sure if I was like, you know what, I don't care anymore. People can know. Put it on the internet. I don't give a shit. I don't care. People got to know. Human
Like I said,
urine.
we could keep or delete
This
this.
one I really want you to keep.
Oh, you're gonna go the Leota Machida route.
Yeah, but I'm gonna get a little bit more into why. It's I know Leo Machida, and he's infamous fighter that is like, oh, I drank my pee, it gives me strength, like that kind of deal. The dude's not lying.
Yeah.
He's not lying. Human urine. Fun fact about somewhere around probably, what was the statistic on it? I think it's like 90% of pharmaceuticals are actually reverse engineered from the contents of human urine. That's where pharmaceuticals come from, is your pee.
All right.
Now, let's reverse engineer that. Okay, if they're getting all of these beneficial things that can do X, Y, and Z from your pee, what could your pee do for you?
Okay.
Right? There's a book. It's called My Own Perfect Medicine that I think every person needs to read. Dude, we're talking like it gets into how it helps cure diseases, what's actually in it. Dude, I'm kidding you. I'm not kidding you. I will send you a podcast.
I could picture me going on Undivided, and Wendy's just like, "Oh God."
Oh no, that's a topic that I'm going to get into with Wendy. I think on our next one, we're going to talk nutrition. But dude,
Hey, for YouTube, the vaccines are perfectly safe, guys. Okay, safe and effective. All right, and don't drink your own pee. Okay, for YouTube purposes. All right, pee is wrong. Okay, Brussels sprouts are right. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
actually drink your pee. Just the morning one though. Just the morning. You can and ferment it.
Go ahead. No, but we're on to something serious.
Dude, so what's in it? You're talking stem cells, a little bit of growth hormones, serotonin, melatonin, dopamines. Dude, the list just goes on and on and on. And in terms of efficacy of like killing diseases and stuff, it kills everything because it breaks up mucus. Where does diseases live? Diseases live in mucus, right? Like that's where they thrive. So if you ferment your pee and then ingest it, doesn't have to necessarily be like you swallow it. You can do it as an enema. You can do whatever, right?
How many doses are we talking about?
It depends. It depends. But dude, I'm telling you, I drink a glass every morning. Mm-hmm. I don't get sick. My energy levels are through the freaking roof. My digestive system, it's a prebiotic. It helps with digestion. Like, it's filtered blood. That's all it is. It's not waste. It's not laced like we've been led to believe it, right? Like poop's your waste, right? Like that's where all that stuff comes from.
Yeah.
So your kidneys filter your blood, and your body, it pulls out all the stuff it didn't need at that time, like all the leftover minerals, nutrients, like whatever it didn't need to function, right? That's what's in your urine, right? So if you notice as the day goes on, your pee's usually lighter as a day. And people are like, oh, like you're just more hydrated. Not necessarily, right? It's just your body, because you've been moving, you've been doing things, your body needs more nutrients. So it's retaining more of them because you're not asleep. Whereas when you wake up in the morning, your pee's usually a bit more yellow, right? It's because you've been out. There's just a lot of unused stuff your body didn't need.
And when it's white?
Yeah, there's nothing in there. It's just water.
Right. Yeah.
But it's structured water though. Like it's called urine upcycling, right? If you re-drink that, like you're getting perfect water. There's all these stories of people who have been stranded, like in the middle of the ocean, like wherever, had no food source whatsoever. Only clean water source that they had was their own urine. They find these people and they're like, I actually feel really good. Like I'm not, they expect these people to be like emaciated, like about to die, and they're like, no, like I feel good, like I feel pretty strong. Like there was one guy, he was stuck at sea for like 3 months, and they found him, and they're like, oh dude, this guy's got to be in terrible shape. Like maybe he like caught a fish here and there, like somehow managed to survive. He's like, I just drank my pee. Like that was it. I couldn't really catch anything because I was in the middle of the freaking Pacific somewhere, just floating on a piece of wood or whatever. But yeah, man, there's so much research on it. It's actually the most researched thing like on the planet.
Well, it's the most enigmatic because when people start making an argument for it, and when people actually have the balls to sit down and debate someone on it, they can't sit there and be dismissal of every single historical fact
If you look,
and correlation that goes with it. So the reason why it's the most research is because there are people that just don't want to believe it, but at the same time,
no, the reason it's most
can't.
research is because this is where all the pharmaceutical companies get their products.
Boom. Close to, yeah.
And if this were to hit and become like a mainstream like thing that people do, is like utilizing their urine to like heal themselves,
Go to the CVS.
there goes the whole pharmaceutical industry. It's gone. Like there's no need for it anymore if you have that kind of level of like self-efficacy of healing.
It's no profit in the cure.
That's what I'm saying. There's no profit in the cure, but you break it apart and take out the individual pieces and then sell people what you think they need. There's profit in that.
Yeah. Well, allow me to say something controversial too, and I'll say this to the camera. Dying in America is the most expensive thing you can do in the history of your life. Dying in America, in the United States, not dying anywhere. Dying in America is the most expensive thing you will probably do your entire life, because dark chocolate can serve as a fat burner, or you can take a supplement with a fat burner that has side effects, right? You can lower your cholesterol by changing your diet, or you can take Lipitor, which has possible side effects. You can lower your blood pressure by just simply putting garlic on your food, or you can take Norvasc, which is a very reliable drug by Pfizer, but also has side effects. They said there's a poison in every pill, and if there's a poison in every pill, why the hell
Are you taking it?
Yes. Why don't you
Even
take
Tylenol?
Why don't you accept the poison that your body has a historical better chance of recovery for, right? Like cold spinach, right? There's a good source of iron, but I know there's a lot of poison in vegetables because vegetables try to protect itself from being eaten too. But anthropologically speaking, we as human beings have earned that right. As far as immunity is concerned, I won't use the word herd immunity because I don't know the science behind it, but years and years of existence on this earth, we've earned that right to get nutrients from that and recover from the other. Then something in the lab that's spun up and some human trials, it works. Okay, that person, he caught a bad one, but that's just a one-off. We'll make sure we put that in. Make sure we put that in the detail or whatever. And this is why I was very, very upset about someone, a draconian society that says you have to take this.
Yeah, I mean that's it.
I'm only got pissed off because you know what? I'm gonna finish by saying this. My best cure for being pissed off less is to stop watching Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is this unforgiving, consistent with the religion of Judaism, right? And I know we got to wrap up. Consistent with the religion of Judaism, where they do guilt instead of redemption or revenge, right? It's just guilt, shame on you, shame, shame, shame. This man uses the truth in this satirical way that makes you laugh and angry at the same time. And I just saw a most recent episode where they're doing like Senate hearings from all of the doctors and from some of the unelected officials that employed this policy, and the elected officials who made it law, and the media who was weaponized to shaming you into this. All these people are saying, we didn't make anyone take anything. We didn't mandate anything. We didn't mandate that. We didn't make anyone say that. And I'm just like, I was angry. I was like, first of all, you did. Second of all,
we have it right here.
Second of all, even if you didn't, you
supported it.
Not just supported it. You put it in a very, like you said, it became religion, not science. Mm-hmm. Religion meaning God says human beings have free will. No, you don't. If the choice is see it my way or burn in hell, that's not a choice, right? If you make a corporation or convince a corporation that they have to mandate that they take this or they won't work, that's not a choice for some people.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's a choice. I got a little FU money, right? But that's not a choice. So either they're lying or they set it up in a situation where they can just say, I didn't make anyone do anything. And when I saw that episode yesterday, I came into this podcast enraged. Thank God I'm talking to you. You know, because we Torin, there were so many colors. There was so much recovered. We recovered on this, and we could definitely pick this up more at some point. But there's two things I wanted to do. One, at some point I want to take my kid. It's daddy-daughter day, so what I want to do is get showered, clean up, and then do something with her. And two, we got to do the lightning rounds. We got to do the 60-second lightning rounds. Oh my God!
Let me say this,
please. While I'm setting this up, you can tell me.
I only say these things. I know a lot of them can seem kind of far-fetched. And just because, I mean, dude,
just see if it makes sense.
Well, just not even that. Just unlearning everything that we've been taught is such like a weird process to kind of undergo. Of like, okay, like something's not right, right? Like, what is it? And that's kind of the feeling that I'd had for years. And then within the last couple of years, I've really started to figure things out and be like, oh, like we've just been lied to about so many different things, like our history, you know, food, nutrition, but science.
Right, but unlearning something requires engagement.
It does. 100% does.
Conversation. Like, you have a bunch of ideas, but at the same time, if I'm a betting man, you're not married to them. You have a conversation with someone that makes you see something slightly a different way.
That's a good thing.
Cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Sorry.
So all I have to say was just, you know, if it resonates with anyone, I just encourage you to do your own research. Like, it's changed my life, and I know that it's changed the lives of a lot of people, and that, you know, we do have the capabilities as people to heal ourselves.
It makes us less stupid too.
Yeah,
we gotten to a point where society has put us in this position where they highlight the dumbest Americans, right, and decide that because of those guys, we don't have the mental capacity to decide for ourselves. Of free will of what we want to believe or not based on whatever. And I'm with you on that. It creates less dumb. Look, I know being dumb is your constitutional right. I get that, guys. Where's my camera? I know. All right. Ignorance is not only bliss, it's constitutional. I get that. But let's surround ourselves with some people with some kind of not high IQ, ridiculous, above everybody else. Just start engage, don't cancel. And that's
it.
What you're getting
I'm just a humble messenger.
Yeah, you are. Yes, you are. And you know what? That's exactly how I'd like to describe you. You are the humble messenger. You and Kristen Nuss ought to get together and go bowling or something. Hey, now Torin's spoken for. And my God, she's a smoke show. Oh my God, his woman's a smoke show. Oof. Right, we're gonna go insane. We might as well go hot, right?
Yeah. She's not insane. We've been on
and
that
she's
road
not,
before.
as fate would have it, right?
Yeah, she is as even keeled.
I'm the guy with the Harvard girl who's more cuckoo than she is. You know, Kelly, love you. No, if you're listening, but just kidding. All right, so let's do this. Let's get our 60-second clock. Let's scroll that so you could see it, and boom, we're off. Favorite comedian?
Ooh, Bill Burr.
Bill Burr. Wow. Last good book you read. There's many, but go ahead.
Ooh, I'm currently reading The Law of One, The Raw Material. It's like 5 of them. It's the whole series. You should check it out.
Cool. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Pool or beach?
Beach.
That was easy. Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Lord of the Rings.
Bourbon, tequila, or vodka?
Bourbon.
Favorite sport outside of volleyball?
Basketball.
Favorite action film star growing up?
Ooh, Wesley Snipes.
Yes! Oh my God! Favorite morning talk show host, if you have one. Is that a pass?
Pass.
All right, cool. We banged them out. Cool. That was with 15 seconds left. I'll go favorite comedian, Chappelle. Last good book I read was Behind You, Scars and Stripes, Tim Kennedy. Marvel, Pool, Unless I Live in Hermosa Beach. Lord of the Rings, vodka, mixed martial arts, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stephen A. Smith. And there's the horn, guys. Torin, someone want to get to know a little bit more about your journey because you do so many things. Like there are levels of open to volleyball, but there are levels to open in life. And some of the things you've done to help, teach, being a teacher for special needs kids, all the way to just bartending and bartending at these chic elite hot spots. Yeah, you get tips because of your personality, dude. That's your life. But yoga instruction and stuff like that. Someone want to get to know a little bit more about you. Is that Insta or whatever? Like a little handle. Can we do that before we leave?
It was up there earlier. It's right behind me.
All right, cool.
It's beachy _T.
There it is. Double underscore. Nice.
I think it's double underscore.
It is. All right. So that's my man. All right, guys. Torin might love you, but me, I don't love. No. You know what? I love you guys too. I usually say I can't stand them, but I love all of y'all. As we say in New York, I love all of you, man. I love all of you because this man, my man Torin Jeffreys, on episode 179 of the Option Podcast, has made his presence known. Thank you so much for joining me. For all of you at home, for all of you on your desktop, for all of you on your iPhones, for my man TJ Torin Jeffreys, I'm Jason DeBillius. Stay with me. We're gonna hit my music. We're out of here. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.